Can you access that file on your computer?
Probably.
Be interested to see. I read it sometimes and I just go, what the fuck is wrong with me? We're good? All right. Well, are you pulling it up?
Let's see.
How long will it take? I'm just going to hit record because it's hilarious.
Oh, I got it.
What do you got? Go like all the way to the bottom. I'm pretty sure we did the bless up one. But
Mochi.
oh, God. Have you had that stuff?
Yeah.
It's ice cream skin. It's fucking disgusting. It's the
I
worst.
think it's like marshmallows to me. It tastes like a mildly cold marshmallow.
The Japanese are they're back and forth. If they didn't have the sweet potato, I would say it's altogether just ridiculous.
Japanese sweet potatoes.
I don't understand how the same country that thought, nah, fork, fuck it, I'm going to lift things up with 2 sticks, also gave us this amazing gift of sweet potato. What do? They come out with fucking ice cream skin. It's the most disgusting thing in the world. And they come in the most like Whole Foods flavors. It's like chai, latte, ice cream. I was like, who the fuck is he? But they love it. They love it. Those things are crushing it, man. They're like Dippin' Dots. Do you remember those?
That's like old school.
Yeah,
my childhood.
That was like the American mochi.
American mochi.
What else I got in there? There's a lot of just that's my therapist. That note that we share.
Let's see. Tell us how you feel about minimalist shoes.
I don't really. It's in there. I think it was more of a question. I think Vibram. Well, we talked about this in the past, right? Like Vibram oversold the efficacy of foot strengthening, and they got a class action lawsuit slapped against them. So I'm one way or another. I mean, I'm wrestling shoes through and through now. Like regardless of what I'm training.
Yeah.
I'll put like even on my leg days lately, I've been going wrestling shoes.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin Oak, who's like a fucking powerhouse of a powerlifter. He's like one of the strongest 242s and 220s of all time. He made a really interesting point because he squats at like boxing shoes almost, or wrestling shoes.
Okay.
And he squats like 800 pounds.
Squats in those?
836.
Shit, man. There's nothing to those.
But it's all him, dude. It's all fucking him. So it's like you got to give credit where credit's due, because that's really helped with my quad rehab, is not having that shear force of the elevated heel with my Romaleos. Because I feel like whatever hip imbalance you have just gets manifested through the sagittal plane when you have heel shoes on, because they're so fucking solid to the ground. It's like if you have a lateral, like a lateral flexion or an abduction instability or rotational instability, doesn't fucking matter. Your feet aren't moving. Your hips aren't going to relatively move in position with the shoulders. All the torque goes into the knee, and it goes into the knee through one plane. Having that pitched heel just suggests more movement through the sagittal plane. So I think the minimalist thing, it might be in that note, because I actually kind of dig the idea of it. I'm not saying go out and buy 5-figure fucking
Jordan's going to be squatting in Vibram shoes.
Could you imagine? Yeah. For my post workout, I think I left my trail mix in my Subaru. Like we're not going that far, but I just think, all right, foot's got to stay down. I think there's some benefit to it. I think overstated in the market, but that's the case with everything, right? Nothing is as good as the market says it is, or nothing is as bad as likely I say it is. You got anything else?
And the last one on the list for now that I don't think we've talked about yet. People who own corgis.
They're the strange. Fucking own cats. Just get a cat, dude. Honestly, people who own corgis are the strange. It's like you got to commit to something. It's like you're not all in on a dog. Don't get me wrong. I love corgis. I love dogs. I love animals. But the corgi thing just seems to draw the strangest people as owners. They're always making their dogs do shit and like recording it on the internet. It's like, please leave your corgis alone.
Have you seen the corgi butts post? Corgis
I hate
have
that I know what you're talking about.
a very, very big butt for a dog.
So see, it's a
Just
weird
throwing
thing.
that out
Yeah,
there.
it's just strange. Like, why do I want to watch a 30-pound dog twerk? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. But that's the mindset of someone who owns a fucking corgi.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
All
I
right.
prefer my dogs to have legs. Anyways, I wanted to talk. We had a question about movies, and this is kind of like not really an intelligent conversation, but sports movies. I'd be interested to get your take, because whenever I talk to Americans, they always include one on the list that I really hope you don't include.
Man.
No particular order.
No particular order.
Give me one. We'll go top 3, but in no particular order. And we'll go back and forth.
I'm gonna preface this with the fact that I'm really bad at movies. Like I'm the type of person that watches a movie
weed and sitting on the couch
and then forgets what it was about instantly. I'm not a big movie quote guy because I don't care. So very opposite of your personality here.
So good. I care so much. I know. There's a handful of movies I know start to finish.
Yeah, there's 0 of those for me. So this is I might make some addendums to these 3 later on, but we're gonna go. Let's see. Space Jam.
Wow, I wouldn't even consider that. Nice.
Space Jam.
No, all right. As I'm going to call you a Space Jam purist without even knowing any of your affinity for the movie itself. The fact that it jumped out as number 1 on your list means like it resonated with you.
This is no order, bro. You can't
fine.
say it's number 1 after you say it's no order.
Primacy and recency. Okay.
Bullshit.
I want to propose a hypothetical, maybe not hypothetical. LeBron James Space Jam 2. Your thoughts?
Ooh. Wouldn't watch it. I don't know. That's my only thought.
Do you think you're doing a disservice to kids if they were to go watch that? Would they get the same experience watching that as we got watching Space Jam?
They very well might.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're LeBron or Jordan.
Oh, dude,
Zero fucks, not a single one.
I'm pretty sure I could beat either in a wrestling match.
Tony Kukoc. I don't know, man. LeBron's fucking huge.
No, dude. Did you see that video that went around of him like doing these squats with like 104 pounds to these boxes that were awkwardly set up like 3 feet underneath him?
Yeah, he was pulling to the left because he had $138 million in his back pocket. He doesn't give a fuck. He's a bat.
Oh.
The rim is 4 inches away from his fingers. What is he on a squat to parallel for? To pick your ass up off the mat after he fucking dummies you?
Bullshit, dude.
You
I'll have him on his ass before he could touch his toes.
You don't stand a chance, dude.
Get the fuck out of here.
He's a fucking monster.
He's all elbows and knees.
It doesn't matter.
He might be a poet
adamantium.
on a basketball court, but I'll drive his knee right into his fucking nose.
He would have you at arm's length. It'd be like a fucking no way.
Get out of here. I've never met. Okay, first off, I've met a handful of wrestlers, a good handful. I'm not saying that I'm a great wrestler or have been a great
You
wrestler.
got the cauliflower
that can beat me. There's not many that can beat me in a very demanding way. Now, I have never, ever in my fucking life met someone that is not a wrestler that can score points on me rather than that beat me. So LeBron James can get down on his knees and then lay down on his stomach.
Still kick your ass.
No, I'm not going to finish that.
We'll message Gunnar Peterson. We'll see if we can't arrange it for some off-season trading. No. You're outside of your mind if you think that. Dude, he's 6'8", 270.
I've put bigger guys on their back. I have even further than that in jiu-jitsu. I have put bigger guys than that to sleep.
I just think his athletic prowess is not a guy in Dallas, Pennsylvania. I just think it'd be good to see. I like the confidence.
No way.
I like
the confidence is through the roof.
Okay, so Space Jam. Number 1.
Sandlot actually is number 1. If we're going in Sandlot. Oh, man, I feel like I have to throw a wrestling movie in there, but there's, like, none.
Ooh, there's that one weird one that
Team
Steve
Fox,
Carell did.
Foxtrot.
Foxcatcher.
That was actually, I think that was in Pennsylvania. That took place.
That totally would be a Pennsylvania thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird movie.
That's got a local tie. That guy went to Palo Alto High School. Both of the brothers went to Pali. There's a there's a memorial for them at Palo Alto Vikings High School just across on El Camino there by Stanford. Because I remember watching the movie while I was working as a strength coach for the football team there.
Nice.
Andrew Herbert, actually, who's
he's a
all-American wrestler, knows both of the brothers really well.
I'd be terrified to wrestle.
He would fuck. I would say when the world ends, when we're all driving down the street and our cell phones give us like, hey, this isn't an Amber Alert. This is this is all signs point to bad, and you start hearing sirens you've never heard before, like some sort of Resident Evil game. I'm going to Herbert's house. I don't know where he lives, but I'll find him. But that's where I'll be safest, is in the arms of Andrew Herbert.
So that's a man that I will admittedly do not want to wrestle ever. LeBron James.
I don't know,
it's a joke.
I just think athleticism has to play in.
Have you seen a basketball player when it comes to any sort of physical contact?
But have you?
He's probably cried on the court before.
Yeah, I'm not going to say he's the toughest guy in the world. I'm thinking it's going to be a logistical nightmare for you to get any mechanical advantage on that guy.
See, the thing about wrestling is you have to grab and hold on to things. His legs are like the size of my torso.
Yeah, and he'll just
I can drive my face into his knee and blow out his MCL.
Yeah, anyways. Okay, so what do we got? Sandlot number 2. Sandlot number 1.
And Team Foxcatcher.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah, man, that was a dark movie, dude.
It was a dark movie, but yeah, I don't know if I'd actually put that. Let's replace that with Rocky.
Rocky, which one?
Original.
Is that the one where he climbs up the stairs?
Yeah.
I guess I'm not the biggest Rocky fan.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not great at movies, but they're 3 that I feel like, have touched me in places that I won't forget.
Okay, so we need like a therapist and a doll. Is that kind of where we're going here? The one admission that I'm surprised that most Americans, when I have this conversation, because obviously this is a conversation.
It's a football movie,
huh?
No.
Miracle. The hockey one.
Oh, actually, I never saw that movie.
Good,
I did read the book though, which is as weird as it gets.
At that point, you read a book.
Yeah, I know.
That's so strange.
And I was like 12 or something, maybe younger when I read it.
At that point, if I'm not mistaken, the Olympic hockey team for the United States had won 1 gold medal. And they made a fucking movie about it. It's like, you know what kind of fucking ridiculous Lord of the Rings trilogy / 13 other fucking times we won it? But it was very an American story. It's like, oh, look, here's this thing that everyone else cares about and we won. So Hollywood, chop, chop, make it happen. So possible. All right, so I'm going to go mine.
All right, let's hear 'em.
You got to go Remember the Titans.
Okay.
Yeah, Denzel, no. Nothing? You never saw it?
I saw it. Just didn't stick with me.
Dude, I could do that movie start to finish right now.
Do it. Go.
Well, it starts with
I'm just kidding.
It starts with a funeral scene, and then the daughter comes in with the overlay, and she talks about like the racial tribe, and then they go best fucking soundtrack of any sports movie. I would go as far to say the only other movie that has a better soundtrack than Remember the Titans is Dazed and Confused. Across the board, we're going across genre, not just sport.
Dazed and Confused, like
you seen it?
The best thing about high schoolers, I keep getting older. They stay the same age. Is that a movie quote from Dazed and Confused?
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Boom!
Can we all just take a moment to respect the fact the only movie quote he ever remembered was one to do with pedophilia?
Yeah.
I just want to shine a real bright light on the fact that I'm going to write that down.
Some may call me worldly. I'm
going to be 30 years old one day living by a high school. I'm going to have to write that down. All right. So I think Remember the Titans was... And again, I'm not a football guy, but I thought Remember the Titans is up there. That's one that's kind of stuck with me over the years. Denzel. That was probably the most stacked cast of any football or any sports movie.
Okay.
It's like, look now at the actors that came out of that movie. Like Denzel, obviously. The coach, the other coach, the white guy, he was a fairly prominent actor. Ryan, one of the Ryans. Ryan Reynolds. One of the Canadian Ryans.
Okay.
I think he was...
Canadian Ryan.
Ryan Reynolds Canadian?
Gosling's Canadian.
And Reynolds. You're welcome.
Hmm.
Yeah. We just have a factory of handsome Canadians named Ryan coming out of... I think Reynolds is from Ottawa. Anyways, he was in that. The big fat guy, he was politically correct. He was like a bigger actor, kind of a C-list guy in Hollywood for a bit.
Okay.
What else? I should have put more thought into this, seeing as this is my idea. I don't even know. Oh, Mighty Ducks. What? Come on. That's got an honorable
That's a good
mention.
One. That was same era as Sandlot, but second to Sandlot.
Because you're a baseball guy and you're a patriot?
Because America, and also because, I played baseball growing up.
Fair enough. No, I thought Mighty Ducks.
Actually, I did play hockey growing up, too. Roller hockey.
Did you?
Little bit dabbled.
That doesn't count. That also comes with Subaru and trail mix.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen roller derby?
Like the sport?
We're gonna air quote sport.
Yeah.
Love this thing. Air quote.
The sport.
Yeah. And the thing is, if anyone who does roller derby that sees this and sees you in public will openly fuck you up because they have nothing to lose because they play roller derby. That's like the most aggressive women. Like anytime I see like a Pat Benatar haircut and like patches on blue jeans, I'm going, that chick plays roller hockey. I believe it.
Wasn't there a movie about this? That we're speaking of sport movies.
A roller derby movie. I don't know.
Oh,
Mark. No idea.
I'll Google it. You keep going on.
Okay, so I think Mighty Ducks has to get For
All
me,
right.
it's on the list.
All
I mean,
right.
perhaps an honorable mention, or we'll close out like a top 5. It was a franchise that wasn't overdrawn. I like that. There was the characters were good. Obviously, hockey. Again, the weird part, it was American, but I like the fact that the infamy kind of lives on, that the Anaheim Mighty Ducks exist and their third jersey is still this Disney fucking logo. So I think that's cool. Like
Solid.
every time they touch the ice for Hans, I cry every single fucking time.
Rollerball 2002.
Wow.
Check
that
it out.
Was, that,
if
was, that was up for a Grammy
if roller
or an Emmy
derby
or
is
a
your sport.
Peabody or that looks like Spielberg.
Ooh, IMDb.
International Movie Database.
Yeah.
How many tomatoes are we getting here?
They have 3 out of 10 stars.
Wow.
3 out of 10. Who
Yeah,
knew they did 10 stars? But that's not the strongest rating.
I wouldn't imagine there's much substance to that movie. Happy Gilmore? Oh, this is going to be hard to keep it to 3, dude.
Happy Gilmore, dude.
That's got to be.
Classic.
Any movie that can have a Bob Barker cameo in it and he's beating the shit out of you with a FootJoy golf club on. I mean, that's got to be up there.
That's pretty good.
I've rounded out 3, but I feel like we could keep going.
I mean, keep going with it.
Sports specific wise. Basketball, football. I mean, you can make the argument. Waterboy was whatever. It was all right. Wasn't my favorite.
No, Happy Gilmore's definitely better than Waterboy.
So would you put Happy Gilmore somewhere in your list?
I could take Space Jam out and put that in there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That Sandlot really close to the heart.
Sandlot was my favorite movie growing up for sure. So that one's gotta stay.
Okay.
I'm not married to Rocky either. I could probably find something else.
Yeah, that's the thing. Boxing movies are hit or miss. Oh, you know what? A little obscure and not really a sport, but Pool Hall Junkies. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Dude, one of the best. It's got Christopher Walken in it.
No.
Not that that's like the gold standard to which quality film is set to. Like having Christopher Walken doesn't mean you have a good movie, but Pool Hall Junkies is pretty good.
All right.
Did you want to switch gears now to something a little bit more technical? Any questions we had going down the pipe other than arguing about how awesome Sandlot isn't?
Yeah, we can go there. No, Sandlot's fucking great.
What do you got?
Oh, I didn't have any questions.
Oh, nothing? You want to pull up that note quick?
All right, where are we going?
We're just going to chop this bit of the episode altogether.
I know, we've hit a lot of these.
What time is it?
Man
Just
of
so I make a
God,
mental note.
Blessed.
We got 16 minutes in before we ran out of ideas. All right.
Stage presence and
Bodybuilding. Yeah.
alpha,
And it's
muscle
all this
confusion,
ranting stuff.
shock the nervous system, quad tattoos. I think we've hit all these.
What were some of the questions we were talking about before? Tendinopathy. How hard is it to chop this video, Mark? Okay, we'll have to do that. This is dragged on for too long to actually maintain, but we need to put something in other than a 15-minute episode.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Squatting, deadlifting. Mark, anything? Now then, we gotta get something. I mean, we're rolling now.
What if? Hold on, let me pull some stuff up. Let me look back on some of the questions we had for.
Yeah, just pull anything. It's hard not having my phone.
I know. That was on RX.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
I put it up on mine and on.
Meniscus tears.
Covered it.
Heavy holds. We just talked about that. Training young athletes.
I think we kind of talked about that, but we could go in on that. You kind of talk about like the stunting your growth thing, like that myth.
I know. Look at me. Proper order of events in terms of warm-up. Doesn't matter.
It's more like a prescript kind of.
Yeah.
I like the kids thing.
Want to do that?
Yeah.
All right,
So where are we at now? I'm just gonna do one of these. When did you start training? When was the first day in the weight room?
First day in the weight room. Let's see. I grew up just kind of being really active, but when I really started getting into strength and conditioning, specifically to get better at sport, I'd say middle school. So what's that?
I don't know. We don't have that.
Eighth grade,
That's middle school.
I guess, right before high school.
Okay, we said primary school up to high school. Same thing.
Yeah. So
Was there any apprehension from your parents, your mom?
absolutely not.
No?
No.
Well, I suppose your dad's jacked out of his mind, right?
Yeah, my dad was wrestler his entire life. My grandpa wrestler his entire life. So it's kind of in the blood.
Fuck you, LeBron.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
coming-
Fuck you,
coming for it.
LeBron.
I got generations of guys who are gonna sweep the legs.
Oh, you could throw a fluffy ball through a hole. Fuck you.
Ah, man. All right. Well, I don't know if he's very impressed with your Rex Kwando shit you're doing over there, but I'd like to see you battle it out.
LeBron gives zero fucks about anything I do in my life.
Yeah, he doesn't know you exist, and that will continue to be the case
Yeah.
until the day you die.
But I am confident that I could beat him in a wrestling match.
and that's all that matters.
Yes, and possibly make him cry.
Sure. Anyways,
Just give it to me, okay?
I'm not gonna succeed these points to you. Sorry. What were we talking about? When you started training? No pushback from your parents.
No, it was kind of those things like, all right, it's time. Go ahead.
Okay. How old were you? So 8th grade. That's
Probably
12.
12, yeah.
That's young.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
What about your brother?
Brother, he wasn't into, like, contact sports. He was a
Okay.
golfer. Yeah, hunter, redneck,
Is he
of all sorts.
Is he taller than you?
A little bit, not
Okay.
much.
Because
maybe
there is
2,
the
3
argument.
inches.
Yeah, there is the argument, or like the mom science. Mom science around lifting is the best thing ever.
Oh, my God.
I legitimately had to hide creatine monohydrate, and like me and my friend found a locker down the tech hall that wasn't being used in our high school when I started lifting in the 9th grade, and his parents didn't give a shit. He's actually one of my close friends. I'm going to his wedding the end of the month, and we go to GNC, or no, what was it called? Fuck, in Windsor, it was called Edge Supplements, Edge Nutrition, which is like it was almost like Men in Black. Remember the first Men in Black movie where like the little alien guy owns the pawn shop and then he shoots his head off,
Yeah.
and then he like finally his head grows back and he turns the key and all the stuff flips over. So imagine like that, except it's all like creatine and protein powder, and then some dodgy guy in a stringer like turns the key, and then it's just all steroids. Like it's just the whole shop it was all just a front for selling gear. But we would go to the store, we'd go to Edge on Tecumseh and Lozon, and we would get whatever stuff we fucking mowed lawns and got our money, and we'd have to keep it in this locker because I couldn't keep it in my house because like your parents think that creatine is like gear. And it's like, oh, all right. Well, you're gonna be real upset. But anyway, so like we would do that and we would start training. But the thing that more mom science is the lifting is going to stunt your growth, which is something that I've kind of looked into. But would you ever get posed with that when you started training?
Would I get posed with
Yeah,
that?
like
if you look at my family, I was never destined to be tall.
He's grown enough as it is. He eclipsed. You're what,
Yeah.
5'8"?
Thanks, man.
I don't
Thanks.
know. What are you?
I'm about 5'5".
I put you on a pedestal, not physically, but
I appreciate that.
Well, the thing is, we're usually sitting in these fucking chairs. So we're that same height. I wouldn't mind an Adirondack chair sponsor. If anyone out there wants to
That would be
sponsor
good.
Studio Comfort, I'll be all for it.
Yeah.
Especially for our homeboy over here.
Yeah, we could use a third.
Ergonomic. Get Marcus sit-stand desk of this bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing that a lot of parents will come to me with because, like, again, treat primarily athletes. That means you can treat people who are very old who are specific, or treat people who are very young. Now, there's a weird kind of polarity with parents that have young athletes, and one is worried about their health and don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and the other is worried about the success of their. Basically, is this kid going to make me a fucking $1 million when he's 18?
Yeah.
Who also have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. So, like, what I'll get as you know, they show a lot of technical prowess. Right, as you likely did in wrestling, or as you know me with hockey to some extent, then you understand that the strength and conditioning rabbit hole is something you're going to have to go down. And you know, my dad was like, "Yeah, whatever, do you want?" I've never lifted; he wasn't big into it. But my mom's biggest thing was like, "It'll stunt your growth." So the myth there, as best I can tell, as long as you're not actually taking exogenous hormones at a young age, because that'll be what actually stunts your growth. So the process is, and I could be fudging this a bit, but the fundamentals are there. If your growth plates in your bones, so your long bones that are going to largely dictate how tall or how short you are, which have some basis in genetic coding, that response to the closure of those, what triggers the closure of those, would basically say, all right, you're kind of done, is actually hormones, right? So you'll notice that girls get taller a lot younger and a lot faster than guys do, and guys don't. Like, I was 5'1", 160 pounds in the 9th grade. 5'1". Like, that's a very easily projectile or very easy thing to put in a locker. But by the time I graduated, I was 5'11", right? There were girls in the 8th grade who were 5'6". By the time they graduated, they were 5'6", right? So what happens is in males and females, I'm fairly certain that sex hormones or androgens are actually going to dictate the closure of those bones. So when you start to see a fluctuation, then you start to grow, it's the counterproductivity of whatever the antagonist hormone is that actually seals off the growth plate and says you're done. So if your 12-year-old is, going to Edge Nutrition and the guy's turning the key and he's getting whatever M test or whatever methylated testosterone, which is fucking crazy potent. Like, that stuff's cooking with gas, but that'll also trigger that hormonal cascade that'll theoretically, and this is the best that I can come across, stop or preemptively close those growth plates, which are going to dictate your life. It's not, if he lifts weights, it's the axial compression that's stopping his bones from. It's like, no, that's bullshit. That has nothing to do with it. So as long as your kid's not running gear, more often than not, it's not going to really affect their height, which is, I think, is a big myth. The one thing that I ran into, and I was wondering if you did, was because I know your back injury kind of came from a bad strength coach, right? Where it was just like PR or ER every day.
Pretty much.
How do you
Bulgarian method?
How did you get first introduced to the idea of sports specificity? Like, when did that conversation start coming in? Because with hockey, it's like it's so many different angles, and same with wrestling. It's so dynamic where it's like, okay, sagittal plane lifting doesn't really add up, but you can't have that kind of introspection as a kid. You just go, all right, lift more weight, play better hockey.
That's a lot of what it was. I mean, it wasn't very intellectual. It was just, all right, get stronger. I don't know. You do a lot of pulling and wrestle, a lot of grip strength. We'll get you to do a lot of pull-ups, get the grip strength up, a lot of grunt work, heavy squats, a lot of sled work, things like that. Just get you stronger. You'll wrestle better.
When did you start taking this on as yourself? Like, when did you start being objective and like, okay, what part of my training is actually beneficial to the sport and what part is just, the old guard of Pennsylvania high school strength and conditioning?
Yeah. So actually, this wasn't even through my school. It was through one of the best wrestlers that my school's ever produced. I lifted with him, and his dad kind of orchestrated the whole thing. And it was just like, we would go 3 days a week. We would hit every exercise you can imagine, go super heavy, like all the time. Like, a lot of times we'd work up to a max 3 times a week, and just hit everything, all in the same order, same session, or same exercises 3 times a week. So after a while, like, I really... I was 12. I was made out of rubber. I don't know. Like, there's no such thing as injury at that age. And then as I got through high school, I lifted like that probably for 3 years. So it was probably my sophomore to junior year in high school, off season. I had a low back, like an SI sprain. I forget if it was from lifting or from wrestling, but it put me out for a while. And then I got back, and I think I tried to lift that way a couple times, and I just realized that it wasn't working for me. And in those past 3 years, I kind of accumulated bits of knowledge and things like that. Made friends with the trainers, would ask them a bunch of questions. It was just something that I kind of gravitated towards. And I started going to the gym, like same sort of thing, 3 times a week. But I would just start kind of regimenting my own sessions in a way that, didn't cause me pain, I felt was more beneficial. It just kind of spiraled from there all through high school, all through college. I did all my own strength programming. I started like strength and conditioning more than I liked the actual sport of wrestling. So,
did you have to find like a rebirth of that thought process when you got into CrossFit? Like, when you got into CrossFit, because like I remember we would train together and more like bodybuilder style, and then you were like, fuck this, I'm out, and then joined a box. I don't know if the two were correlated or not, but it's got to be a weird space to navigate where you don't. The objective outcome is just, oh yeah, be better at everything. It's like, well, where the fuck do I start?
Yeah.
Right. And so how is that process then like transferring over? Now, like, okay, you kind of got the fundamentals of like probably more of a theoretical knowledge at that point in your academic career than when you were a kid. Do you rely on some of the experiences of lifting as a kid, like the mistakes you made? If you're not mad with where you're at now, would you go back and change it?
I would change things. Yes, I wouldn't change. Yeah, I would change things.
What would you change? What would be the number one thing you'd change?
I would have focused my training earlier on, because I had this long period basically between, that realization after my back injury in high school up until, and the bodybuilding falls in with this, up until when I started CrossFit, where I was just training and I wanted to be good at something, but I didn't know what. So to answer your question, is competition is what drew me into CrossFit. But if I could go back and change one thing, I would have found something, a strength sport to compete in besides bodybuilding, earlier on. So,
God forbid, I'm not wishing this on you. You got, say in 9 months, you got a little Jiunta. You got to start. Again, just pray to God that doesn't happen for so many reasons.
Oh, man.
For the betterment of mankind, that doesn't happen. But how do you begin to strategize his introduction to, or her introduction to loading, to movement?
Yeah.
Like from even like early development days all the way into like more structured training or sport specific.
So let me rephrase that. Someone with a child
is
looking to get their child into some sort of strength and conditioning.
Someone who's responsible and child services isn't going to find the kid in a cupboard somewhere. Like, that's where I left it. No shit. Okay, continue.
I think the process starts, the younger the better. We'll put that in an air quote. But it starts with kinesthetic awareness. So I think things that you can do really early on in a child's life to get them to use their body in a way where they have to figure out how to use their muscles, gymnastics and swimming are two things that I think are really good for getting, just getting kids to move. It can be posed in a fun way where it's going to draw them in and they're going to enjoy what they're doing. Swimming's fun, tumbling on some foam mats and shit like that's fun, right? As a kid. So I think that's a good thing to have them start early on. And then as they get, and that's like less than 5, I don't know, like young 4, kid. Because you don't start sports, organized sports until maybe 8 at the youngest, right?
Dude, it's getting younger.
Is it?
So here's the problem that I'm seeing, right? Like I have friends who have kids this age and it's like, it's almost an overcorrection of specificity, right? The best athletes I knew growing up were fucking 7 sport athletes.
That's exactly where I was going with this too.
But if you show an aptitude, or if I think, well, I'm this age, by the time he's 18, he'll go in the draft, I'll fucking quit my job. If I get too hyper specific in that thing, dude, there's development teams like, I think was it like Liverpool or something? Some of these big European soccer clubs, they start developing players at like a obscenely young age, right?
Yeah.
Where did I was just listening to something the other day about this. I want to give credit. Oh, Corey Schlesinger was talking about this on Jug Life podcast. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it right now because we'll get him on. He's the dude.
Cool.
But he's a strength and conditioning coach with the Stanford Cardinals basketball team, and he was talking about like hyper specificity. And I think that was something that I benefited in the long term. Not that I'm, like a stellar athlete, but I was year round. But I was on the ice for 6 months of the year, and I was playing soccer for the other 6 months of the year. Or then I was playing lacrosse or did cross country or swimming or whatever. So I think as the kinesthetic awareness is a good piece to start with because it's transferable across all disciplines.
Yeah.
I think the starting them early thing is like, don't have him toe tagged for the MLS before he's got his first fucking finger painting up on the fridge, right?
Exactly.
So it's a matter of like getting a breadth, and I think there is a point where you need to be hyper specific, obviously, and work on talent like acquisition in that particular sport.
Yeah.
But out of the gate, introduce as much varied stimulus as you can, and I think too, there's pretty good research for cognitive development on kids who play more sports, working in different environments, problem solving in a different arena. are not going to be, another child left behind sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I was just recently at one of the USA weightlifting certifications, and they teach something called the American Development Model. And it's basically this exactly very different than the Russian development model.
Yes. And that starts at a pharmacy.
But it's basically this. It answers this question. So it's basically a lot of the stuff that you just said. It's early exposure, late specialization. And it takes them through stages. You want to expose them to as many different sports early on as possible. And then as they get older, kind of reduce those down to kind of what they show aptitude to, what they enjoy doing. And then with that, there's a couple different stages. I don't know if I can remember them all right off. The first one is like just enjoying sport. Right?
Play.
Yeah, playing basically. And then later down the line, it's learning to train. So learning how to train specifically for what sport that is. And this is maybe a little biased towards weightlifting, but it applies to, any other sport. It's not very different. And then and that's, maybe a 3 to 4 year stage where they're just learning the process of, going through a season, all that stuff, learning how to get better at the thing. And then there's a stage called training to train. So training to, go through those cycles, get better at the thing that you're at. And then there's training to compete. So learning how to train specific to competition. And then it's competing to win is the last one. And then, the last one's like, play for life or sport for life, whatever. So you're continuing to do this stuff throughout just so you're moving and staying active and healthy and all that shit. But yeah, it kind of progresses through different age groups, and you don't really fall, for most people, and I'm sure there's like those anomalies that LeBron James who, sucks at wrestling, but that's why he plays basketball and makes more money than I'll ever make. But there's some cases that there's going to be those outliers where they specialize a little earlier and they show, really great potential. So you want to push them that way, I'm sure, in a way that still keeps it enjoyable and keeps them, progressing. But usually it's those late teen years or mid to late teen years, so like 16 on is where you're going to start to want to specialize, right? Up until at 16, it's just getting exposure, moving, playing different sports. There's not many people that before the age of 16 are going, are set for the Olympics, unless it's maybe something in gymnastics they've been doing since they're 2 and their kind of expiration date is 16.
Yeah, it's like Simone Biles was pretty young when she first went. And there's a sprinter that U.S. sent that went, so rather than, I think, celebrating her 17th birthday, she was sprinting in Rio.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, what were you doing at 17, 16?
Nothing like that.
Dragged over the bleachers by a police officer. That story?
Yeah.
That is forever in the archive. Well, here's the thing. I think they're starting to get it right, and I think they're adopting, and I'm paraphrasing from this interview, they're adopting a more European model, which and I think is always beneficial for a lot of things in this country. But I think too that model isn't necessarily chronologically cast in stone. I think if you're if you're like, you come out of school, you've had your head down, getting fucking PhDs and all this nonsense, and you haven't really been going down the route of physical activity, I think introducing a maybe compressed in some ways, but maybe even an expanded version of this, because you can make these adaptations really quickly when you're a kid. You're a fucking sponge, and your center of gravity is in the fucking ground. You're 2.5 inches or 2.5 feet tall.
Right.
Whereas a 6 foot tall adult, it's like, okay, we're trying to introduce play, sure, and that might take more time because you have a job and you have whatever. So understanding the fundamentals of gaining kinesthetic proprioception, and that could even be done within the confines of a gym, right? Like there's not, what are you gonna fucking play in a frisbee league? Frisbee's not a sport. Frisbee, if you're training for frisbee, you're not training. I don't really. Or soccer, golf. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah.
Oh God, I can't. The Silicon Valley is it's too much. It's too much. But I think you have to understand the principles of just motor pattern development, period. Whether you're 4 or whether you're 40, you still need to have that graduation process. So you need to be able to adapt in, kinesthetic proprioception, be aware of where your body is in space. Whether that's drills or games or going to the pool, being able to kind of tap into that motor unit recruitment, be able to know where you are, is just going to increase that longevity when we get to that final stage of play for life or whatever. Whether you need the competition piece in the middle varies. I think it's good. I think having some pursuit in physical activity where it's competitive, especially this day and age where people aren't fucking keeping score and everyone wins and it's participation trophies. It's like, listen, the second you taught me to do math, you taught me who won and lost, right?
Yeah.
I'm keeping score and I'm up 3, bitch. Like, you need to have that drive. So I think more to like the physical health, sure, but I think as you're older, the psychological drive of overcoming and achieving and winning and beating someone else, I think, is huge, because you don't get that, and it's a very bubble wrapped psychological culture that we live in, where it's like you can't take anyone out at the knees anymore. So, but in the arena of sport, if you can get a bit of that, you scratch an itch that I think is good for you long term. I'm not saying go out and rape and pillage or anything like that. I'm just saying join a men's league, win a championship, put something on the mantle. But I think the model is sound, and it's starting to come around, as long as the sport specificity isn't too focused in the early going, and then it's a little bit more tailored, whatever that sport is.
Right.
The problem is usually individual sports are developing the protocols, so they are in a sense biased in the way that they're curtailing people through the program. Like, you're not going to see a hockey program that introduces soccer in the off season, even though maybe, I don't know, soccer would be the best, but having a different, like lacrosse or something like that, having something that's kind of different in the way that they're going to load, because a lot of sports, and maybe this would be a good place to answer the question that we got about fixing imbalances in athletes, in elite end athletes.
Yeah.
Because that was the question we got posed to us, and I think it ties in nicely. Like, when you are in that pursuit as an adolescent or as a young adult of being very sport specific, sports are not balanced by their very nature. They're not balanced, right? Pitching, tennis, soccer, it's unilateral movements. You're stable on one leg, strong on the other. How would you go about, like, say you had someone from the league, like a major leaguer, so the Giants come in and he was a pitcher, how would you address something like a shoulder with a pitcher or a hip with a soccer player when it comes to how much of that imbalance are you really going to try and fix?
Yeah, it's not about creating symmetry in that place, when a lot of times it is. And the everyday office worker probably being more symmetrical is going to help with whatever's going on. If this is someone that makes, I don't know, they have like hundreds of $1 million contracts for pitchers in the MLB. So if they're making their living throwing a baseball, you can cater everything you do to keeping them healthy in throwing that baseball. And if you can just, that's basically it. That's the only thing. You want to keep them healthy and out of pain. So it's not about creating symmetry in that case. It's about sport-specific skill and allowing them to do that to the best of their abilities without any sort of biomechanical inhibition.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think symmetry can be looked at a lot of different ways, and this is something that I'll get from the lay population, because you mentioned like office workers, and yeah, symmetry is the goal. Why? Because their main force that they need to overcome is gravitational. It's pulling straight down. So if it's pulling straight down and there's a discrepancy or an asymmetry top to bottom, left to right, front to back, strength, stability, that'll manifest itself over time. And then we're going through the path of least resistance. But fucking guy, if he's hurling 100 mile an hour from the mound, it's like the amount of force that's going through his shoulder there. The gravitational pull on this guy throughout the day is not really going to manifest itself in abnormal postures. It's how he throws that fucking ball that's going to manifest how he presents himself in posture and how he continues to trend movement patterns through joints in particular directions. So with the pitcher, for example, yeah, the glenohumeral internal rotation deficiency, GERD, he's going to have it. Why? Because his external rotation is off the fucking charts. This guy's wrist is like painting the third baseline, but his chest is facing the catcher, right? But that's how he generates the torque through the shoulder, that he's going to be able to utilize that full systemic power that he's created from his big toe all the way up to his opposite side throwing arm. So I think at minimum effective dose, I think this is something that people got to come back to. It's like, do we address internal rotation? Abso-fucking-lutely, because if we don't, his performance is going to hit a glass ceiling very quickly because he's going to succumb to injury. So But do we also want to have a balance? You know, let's start with this arbitrary 90-degree position of the shoulder, which who fucking cares if from your elbow in one position can go back one way and the elbow in the same position can internally rotate the other way. It's like that's that starting point. You might as well 78 degrees. Let's start the test from there. It's the same fucking thing, but we look at these binary orthopedic evaluations of athletes and you're just like, well, you know, see there and this, and it's like, by and large, yeah, what's the goal? What's the goal? Throw 100 miles an hour for as many years as you can. Okay. If we continue on the trend of retroverting that arc of rotation in the shoulder, we're going to run into some structural damage. We're no longer going to be in a position from a length-tension relationship to the muscles of the shoulder that are going to be prime movers that express that translation of power output through the trunk, through the legs, into the upper body, and then through pronation of the wrist as it comes through the shoulder. You're not going to be able to do that long-term if we're at a decreased length-tension relationship because we're constantly fucking painting the borders of external rotation through the shoulder. So yeah, we're going to need to kind of knock that little anterior. We're going to need to work a little bit of internal rotation just so we can stay in that sweet spot, right? Or if not, what happens? We generate torque at the elbow rather than from the shoulder. Then you're under the knife. That's Tommy Johnson. There's the fucking end of your surgery. So at the same time, you don't want him to come into camp with the same amount of external rotation on his throwing arm as he did on his left arm, and you robbed him of 30 degrees. I think the biggest thing is integration of that main movement, whatever it is. So if you're if you're a rehab specialist, if you're a chiro, if you're sports specific, making sure that you don't take that away from them, taking away that moment of peak force. So whether they're a pitcher, you can attenuate it, like we talked about in lifting. Like you can attenuate it, you can scale it. Like don't stop lifting through the thing that's painful, but like maybe we scale down the number of pitches you throw in a week. Because if we're going in an off season and they're trying to put on mass or trying to improve some imbalances in, again, left to right, top to bottom, all that shit, in a sense of being very specific and finding a minimum effective dose, then you also want to make sure that these new movement strategies that they're creating can integrate well with the objective outcome. Get on the mound and throw the fucking ball. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people miss that piece when they look to make changes in the off season.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's my take on imbalances in athletes because it gets really specific, like hockey.
Exactly. It's all depending on what the outcome is. What are they trying to do, and can you keep them doing that for longer in a way that's healthy? Basically.
Yeah, I just think carving repetitive motor patterns, it's splitting the atom. You know, you want, once you gain technical proficiency, you want to be able to increase output. But when you're increasing output, you got to understand what your new rate limiter is. If you have the coordination factor down, that's fine. People just look at muscle systems as an ability to either be recovered or not. It's like, okay, or even neurological, let's put it that way, like metabolic and neurologic. It's like, okay, we have way more systems. Like you have the integrity of your structural system that you need to consider in training programs for what kind of damage could we potentially be doing to inert soft tissue structures that are going to take more time to repair than in order of muscles will likely repair first. Neurological adaptations will be made second as far as building strength or work capacity. Then we're going to look more to like, okay, meniscus, labrum, how much stress can these things handle repetitively before the summation of those stressors leads to an injury that we didn't really predict for because we were looking through the lens of our training just through, okay, we're just looking metabolic, muscle recovery, neurologic, CNS recovery. It's like, all right, that's cool, but that's not going to be where this system falls apart, guys. We got to start looking a little bit more at some of these eccentric circles of potential downfalls in your programming and think, how much is he loading through the shoulder? How much is he loading through the ligaments of the elbow? That's where you're going to have a lot of your issues, and that's where programmatics aren't really taken into consideration. Athletes, kids, adults, imbalances, RX Radio, words. Anything to close on? Final points? You know what we should do? We should get a picture of you bodybuilding, which I've seen, and it's sexual. Not only as sexual, or not as sexual though, as one co-host, Jordan Shallow, in his figure skating outfit as a child.
Figure skating.
That's Canadian
Would
gymnastics.
love to see
it's
it.
Canadian gymnastics.
Would love to
if
see
I'm
it.
not mistaken, and you're going to get a kick out of this, I believe the picture in question, the outfit was Woody from Toy Story.
Yes.
Let that mullet
So
round
much
into your
yes.
head.
There's so much yes.
If we're that desperate for followers, it'll go out. I'll tell you what. 300. If we get 300 views, we're at 217, and there's a certain someone from New York who's going to see that, and I think we may have promised the Brett Contreras hip thruster YouTube video that we never put out at 200.
Okay.
The video quality is bad. That's the only problem with it. We had a lot of issues with sound with that video.
Yeah.
But if we get 300, maybe we'll get Jordan figure skating, Toy Story, Woody outfit.
I'm excited to see that.
Well, let's get it. So right now, if you want to see this, go to we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, but iTunes is kind of where we live. If
iTunes,
not,
the
5-star
measuring
rating,
stick.
5-star rating and review. Leave a comment. Share with your friends. Shout out Lunderjack Productions, and if anyone wants to sponsor us with more comfortable chairs, I'd be all for it.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.